Well, welcome once again to Opa's Barn. Today we're going to talk about molding planes. Molding planes have some real distinct features to each plane, but yet there's quite a variety. Here in our collection we have around 350 planes. Now that sounds like a lot, but they had a lot of different planes, and this is a very small collection compared to some of those out there. They vary anything from something like this, which is very simple, just flat on the bottom, to something more complex, like a molding plane like this. A molding plane is used to make a profile or a molding on your wood for like a trim that would go around, be a picture frame or around your doors and windows. You make a molding. If you use a plane like this one, this would be for making a crown molding, which goes around where your ceiling and your wall meet. You put a crown molding up there. Now, how a plane works, you've got the wedges here which hold these irons in here, and when you slide that across the wood, it will cut that profile in there. You can see this one's already been done, but see how it made that profile? That's the exact shape of those blades there, and that's what makes a profile on the wood. You don't do it like we do today with a router or shaper. You don't do it in one pass. You have to go, you start in and you gradually work your way down into the wood until you get to the point where it hits the stop right here, and that keeps it from going any deeper, and then that way your moldings always come out the same. You can see how this plane is held at a little bit of an angle. It doesn't necessarily set flat on the wood. You hold it at an angle to get the proper cut on there. One of the reasons that a lot of people don't like to use the wooden molding planes is because they don't understand how to adjust the blade and get the proper depth of cut. On metal planes like we have today, they have dials and gauges on there that'll help you move that blade back and forth. Before they had such a thing, they used a technique of tapping on the plane in certain areas. You can see the iron right here, and there's a wedge. Now you want to make sure that that's seated good and tight. And if I want that iron to move forward or to take off a tiny bit more wood, you will tap it with a mallet. Now you don't hit the iron. You don't need to hit the iron. You tap it on the front of the plane. So you tap it here, and that will jump that blade ahead. If you want to back that blade back out, you tap it on the heel, and that will bring it back out again. These are molding planes. You do the same thing when you're working on bench planes. Bench planes are much longer, bigger planes, and some of those, not only will they be flat on the ends, some will have a round circle up here. That's called a tap button. And that's exactly what that's meant to do, is to tap it. On those, you do the same thing. You tap the nose to make the blade move ahead, but when you want to jump the blade back, you tap it on the top, and that will bring the blade up. Just a hair, just a tiny little bit. You don't want to take the wedge loose and try moving your blade ahead because you'll never get that blade where you want it. You just have to seat it, kind of feel it with your finger to make sure that it's sticking out just a tiny little bit. Try it on a piece of wood to see if you're taking enough off or none at all or too much, and you just tap it in the different areas until you get that adjusted right where you want it, and then you can go to town of taking the wood off. There's a lot of things built into this plane to help you understand how to use that plane. Now when you use this plane, don't hold it just flat like this or flat on its side. You would actually look down the nose of this plane, and you can see this bottom shoe right here. That should be flat. And then you look right down that spring line, it's called, on there, and do your molding. That spring line also tells you the depth of the wood you have to have and the width of the piece of wood you had to have. That's all built right into that. Other types of molding planes that fall into a molding plane are something called a hollow and round. So you've got your hollow, it makes a hollow, and this makes a round. And they were made in sets. So if you want to find a set of hollow and rounds and make sure they're a matching set, you look for the maker's name and make sure it's the same maker's name. And on the back side, they will have either a number stamp of the series that they were made in, or at least it will have the depth of wood that you need to use. Another style of molding plane is a tongue and groove plane. These two, like the hollows and rounds, will come in a set. Again, you look for the owner's name to be the same, and on the back side, quite often it'll tell you, like this one says 1/8 on it, that's going to make 1/8 of an inch tongue on there, and this will make that groove the same size. So the two, when you put them together, will match up when you make a tongue and groove with them. Here we have some planes that have what's called boxing. These different colors of wood, that light colored wood, that is boxing that's built into there. Here's one that's called fully boxed. It's got a big area in there with boxing, and others that just have little pieces put in there. I can show you best on this small plane. On the bottom of that small plane, that is a real pointed part right there. It's very pointed, and that will wear away easily. So what they did was to put boxing, that's boxwood, in there so that that won't wear away as you're using the plane. Boxing is quite expensive, so they only use small parts of it instead of making the whole plane out of boxwood. If you do find planes that are made completely out of boxwood, you're probably going to pay a premium price for them, and they are hard to find. Quite often what you're going to find on a plane is a mark up in this area that shows the maker of the plane. Some people collect just specific maker's planes. It's hard to find a complete set of somebody who has made those planes. Sometimes you'll find planes that have an owner's mark in here in the front of the plane, or sometimes even in the back of the plane. They put their owner's mark in there in case somebody borrowed their plane, or if they leave it at a job site, they know whose planes are whose. And like this couple of planes here, you can see where there is more than one owner's mark in there. And that kind of shows that the age of the planes, they may have gone through 1, 2, or 3 generations, so you know they're quite old when you see that. Other times, like this one, it's stamped over top of another owner that somebody else purchased it from or something and tried to wipe out his name by putting their name stamp over top of it. They used to be able to buy name stamps. This one here happens to say J. Drain on it. I was able to find that, and one of my great-great-great-grandfathers, 3 of them in fact, had the initials of J. Drain, and this may have been their marker. Now molding planes are all, US molding planes anyway, are all at 9.5 inches long. The reason they make them a specific length is because these are put in the bottom of your tool chest. They set up like that in the bottom of your tool chest, and then you can look down and see your different patterns. By being 9.5 inches tall, you know when you make your tool chest that your tills that will ride over top of it, the little drawers, have to be made at 9.5 inches or taller when you make your tool chest. Well, I want to thank you for visiting Opa's Barn and watching the videos. We really want to make this something that you enjoy. Please give us some comments on what you think of the videos and things that maybe you see in the background you want me to talk about. I'd be glad to do that. If you're ever in the area of Pella, Iowa, you can contact me by my website, and you can come here and see me either by chance or by appointment.